In this episode, we're reflecting on the marathon we ran 1 year ago, how we trained, how we fueled, and the mental highs and lows that came with it, both during training and after the race. Welcome to Feeling Good with Alex and Sam. Welcome to the Feeling Good podcast, where food and fitness is all about feeling good. I'm Alex.
And I'm Sam.
And before we start, we just wanted to thank you for being here. Leaving a comment or a rating truly helps us, and we really appreciate it. And follow us on socials at Feeling Good Pod. Over there, you can let us know anything that you want us to chat about. And we really appreciate you listening.
We sure do. We love to know that we're not just talking to each other.
Okay, let's get into what we're really talking about today, which is marathon training. Now, when you're marathon training, you need lots of fuel, lots of liquids. So let's start today with what did you bring to do the episode today? Any liquids or snacks?
You know, I've dropped the ball a little bit today. I'm not the most hydrated that I could be. I did just finish a little diet root beer, love. I also just had a slice of crumb cake, which came all the way from Manhattan, New York City. And I don't know if this is specific to my family. Half of my family is from New Jersey, but we love crumb cake. And I think I introduced you to crumb cake because you hadn't had it before. And when we were in New York this past summer, I introduced you.
Right. I had only had coffee cake. So I didn't know the difference between coffee cake and crumb cake, which there is a difference. And I tried crumb cake and it was fantastic.
So if you're from the New Jersey East Coast area, let us know. Let me know if this is specific to my family or if it's a delicacy of New Jersey. Had a little bit of crumb cake, could be a little bit more hydrated, but we're going to get through it. Tell me what you brought or what you've been eating, snacking on to get ready for the pod.
Well, speaking of hydrated, I brought water. So clearly I am winning in that department. And I did just have breakfast and then I'm going to work out after, so I probably should eat something after too. But we're really not on top of it today.
No, this is a little bit earlier than we would typically record. You know me, I also like to jam a million things in before anything. Like I just try and do too much in the day. So I think the day got a little bit of ahead of me, but I'm here, I'm ready, and I'm excited about our topic.
We are almost exactly a year out from our marathon. It's been almost 1 year. How do you feel right now thinking back, just like off the top of your head right now? Would you do another marathon?
Long pause. No. I don't wanna do another one, and I feel confident in that because I've been seeing people run in my neighborhood, and you know when someone's training for a race because typically they'll have a hydration backpack or a hydration belt, like, they have a little bit extra for their run for a longer distance, and I've been seeing people run around my neighborhood doing their long runs, and I'm thinking back to a year ago when that was me, and genuinely nothing could convince me to wanna do that again. If for no other reason than I really enjoy having a more leisurely Saturday and not feeling like it was taking over my life. What about you?
If I were running right now and I were going to the places that I typically run at where like other people are running, I guarantee you I would know exactly who's training for the LA Marathon that's happening in very, very soon, because people are usually, like you said, they have very specific things on them that show that they're on their long run. So I guarantee you I'd be seeing all of those people. And maybe it would make me feel some type of way. But if you had to ask me right now, my answer is no, I'm glad I'm not doing it. I don't have any FOMO right now. And like you said, taking up your Saturdays, that's something we can talk about because it is kind of a huge part of marathon training, which is dedicating one whole day to hours of running. Now, obviously, you're faster, that's, a little bit less time, but it's not even just that, it's how you feel the rest of the day. So, no, long story short, no, I wouldn't do another, but that could change.
The other side effect that I'm really aware of now is what it did to my skin being out in the sun. And I just couldn't get up early to beat the sun for my long runs, but being out in the sun for even if it was a shorter run, 30 minutes, an hour, and I mean, you're sweating off all the sunscreen, and I'm just so hyper aware of my skin right now that and I've been doing all these different things like lasers, and I just don't want to do any more damage to my skin.
How did you feel about running pre signing up for a marathon versus your thoughts on running now? Like, did you love it and now you hate it, or do you still feel the same way? Is it neutral?
I have a pretty deep history with running, starting all the way back from when I would use it as a tool to be as small as possible. I looked at runners and I thought, oh, if I just ran a lot, I could look like that really thin, long, lean human. Never in my life has that been the case, but that was really what I thought it would do for me when I was younger. And then really, I didn't have a positive relationship with it until I would say 2021, 2022, and that came from I signed up for well, I got asked actually to do an ultra marathon in Morocco in the Sahara Desert, and one thing about me is if someone invites me to do something and it's free, I will say yes, even if it's 75 miles spread across 3 different days, sleeping in the desert, carrying all of your stuff along the entire way. I will say yes. And so that really inspired me to take on a physical challenge that had nothing to do with the way that I looked. And so it transitioned my relationship with running and with movement a little bit more in the direction of performance. How can I train my body, fuel my body to accomplish this goal? Because if you don't do either of those two things, you're not going to have a good time. So that was the shift. And then I started incorporating more long runs with you, with our friend Layla. And I just liked it. I was like, oh, wow, like I can do this. And it really empowered me to do something that's been on my bucket list for a very long time that I really wasn't confident I would get to, and that was running a marathon. And ultimately, I said, let's just do it now because there was no better time than literally last year to say yes. Really, the best time to say yes to something is like the day before or like years before, right? So I really wanted to do it sooner than later. And it's changed my relationship with running a little bit. It's challenged it because it was really fun for me for a while, and then it kind of went the other direction. I'm working on rebuilding my relationship with running to a more positive space because it kind of took a departure. How about you?
Just a quick backstory on my running journey. I had never really ran more than like 5 miles. Like it really was not something I even thought to do because why would I need to run more than that? That seemed like a crazy far distance to begin with. And then you guys had me do a long run. And honestly, I hated it. I hated every second of that. It was a very, very, very long run, like 15 miles. And then eventually this topic of, doing a marathon got brought up. And like I said, I had never really ran very far to begin with. So this was an entirely new journey for me. At the time, building up your mileage and stuff, it's fun and it's this challenge and it's this goal. And like you said, after its peak, it kind of took a departure and you kind of go into at a certain point in marathon training, like you're just forcing yourself to do something and then you could like build this negative relationship with it. So where I'm at right now is nowhere where I was like a year and a half ago pre-marathon training. I was really, really, really enjoying running. Like it just was something I wanted to do, right? I wanted to run 3 miles, 4 miles. Now I'm having to like build it back up again, like build up the love for it again. Just to give you guys a little backstory on our marathon, we'll start there. We're going to get into nutrition and training, and then we'll get into the mental side of marathon training, which is a whole different topic. And I feel like something that no one really talks about because all you really think about is how am I going to run 26 miles? You don't really think about the mental side of it. But we did the LA Marathon 2025. So that was in March. And it was the three of us, so three friends, me, Sam, and a friend. And I'll be honest, I'm not sure I could have done it alone. I mean, I maybe could have, but I think it would have been an entirely different journey. I don't even mean necessarily like having to run and train alone. I just mean having to take on the entire thing alone. Like it is a lot and it's this huge thing you're focusing on for ideally months because you want to give yourself time to really be training. So we'll start with training. How did you go
Mhm.
about finding a training plan?
I actually had to, like, go through my notes to figure out exactly what I did because I completely blacked it out. But prior to introducing the idea of a marathon, I was already doing at least 3 days of lifting and then a couple days of running, specifically doing 1 sprint session and then doing another more longer interval session. And then every once in a while, I would throw in, like, a longer run. And I did maintain that similar routine into marathon training, but I added in long runs from the Nike Run Club app, which I would recommend to anybody because it's really helpful to have a guide. I didn't follow it word for word or run for run, but what I loved about it was that you could do guided or unguided runs. And during the guided runs, you would get breathing recommendations, technique tips, pacing recommendations. Like, it really walked you through a lot of really helpful information for anyone who's getting into running and doesn't already have an understanding of those things. Outside of that, I was doing my 3 resistance training days. I did add in a lot more stability and coordination movements, so a lot more like single leg movements, but it was a huge thing that I tried to maintain because I knew from my previous running experience how miserable it is to get an overuse injury. And so prioritizing strength training was a really big factor in how I decided to approach the marathon.
So we both used the Nike Run Club, and I loved Nike Run Club. It was my first ever running program that I've done. Like Sam, I was lifting and I was running just for fun. There were no goals of my running necessarily. Like I was running maybe 3, 4, 5 miles. That was it. Pretty much tops. That's as much as I was doing for no reason other than I was just really enjoying lifting and running. I, for some reason, in the summer too, like I just run more. I want to be outside, all for fun, no plan. Nike Run Club was the first time I'd ever followed a running plan. Now, we both didn't follow it to a T. There's tempo runs, there's easy runs, there's the long runs. And I personally chose to do a lot of the guided runs because I loved Coach Bennett. And if you've ever used the Nike Run Club, you probably also love Coach Bennett. Just jumping to the future, we did a half marathon with Nike, and Coach Bennett was there. And I did fangirl a little bit because it was really exciting to see him in the flesh after he endured a lot of hours with me on marathon during marathon training.
I also did a ton of research on training strategy. I wanted to share some of those things because whether you wanna run a marathon or you're already training for a marathon, I think it's helpful information, at least I found it to be super helpful. I read a book called The Hanson's Method, very popular, probably one of the most popular training methods, and here are a few of the takeaways. So, when you're deciding to run a marathon, you have to figure out first what category do you fall in terms of what's your goal? Is your goal just to finish the marathon? Is your goal to have a specific pace or time that you're trying to hit? Or are you an elite runner? You have to figure out exactly what category you're in, and then that will help determine your strategy, how you want to train. And pace plays a really big role in either of those categories, right? If you're just going out and you want to run it and you just want to complete it, then you don't have to worry as much about pacing out your runs, especially those tempo runs. You're not really out there for a specific number. We weren't really, I don't think, out there for a specific number. We were just like, let's just finish. So that was our goal. And so what we did was we just started all of our runs with our slowest pace. I think we started around 11 for our beginning mileage pace, which is really nice to have a watch to be able to monitor what your pace is. We would start at 11, and then let's say every mile we would drop down by like 10 seconds per mile. So we'd go from 11 to 10:50 to 10:40. So we'd try to progressively get a little bit faster with our longer runs, especially. That was the main strategy. That was, I think, as far as pacing went for either of us. We didn't try and hit like really aggressive speeds throughout the entirety of the training. Another thing that I learned from this book is that your long run is what the last part of your marathon will feel like. So that was actually really comforting to me because I was like, "Oh, how am I gonna do more miles after" I think our longest run was 18?
20.
I think it was 20, yeah. So our longest was 20 miles. I had the thought of, "How am I gonna do another 6 miles?" And the way that your training works is you're creating cumulative fatigue. So all of the weight training, the runs that you do through the week before the marathon, you're already on or sorry, before your long run, you're already on tired legs. So once you run your long run, cumulative fatigue has set in, and that's what makes that long run so hard. Now, actually, for race day, you're going to be on fresh legs. Your long run is a practice of what the end of your marathon will feel like, which was really comforting for me. Another thing that I learned from the Hanson's method was that your longest run should not be more than 20% of your weekly mileage, which helped me add more miles through the rest of my week because if you just rely on that long run to get you to your race day, it's not enough and you just need more frequency and more mileage throughout the rest of your week. And also that your cardiovascular system will develop much quicker than your muscles and tendons, which is why it's so important to train smart and not bite off more than your body can tolerate, especially when it comes to recovery. That's where overuse injuries come in. So I learned a lot from this book. If you want a resource to kind of dive into, I would highly recommend it. There are so many methods out there, but it was helpful to have a little bit more education as I was going through this process because I wanted to just absorb as much as I could.
I will say that the thing that helped me the most was when she said that the long run is the end of your marathon because you're so fatigued from the rest of the work that you've done throughout the week. Because I also had the thought of how am I going to run 6 more miles? And I think everyone has that thought, whether you're half marathon training or marathon training. With half marathon training, I think that most programs take
Mhm,
you up to honestly, yeah, maybe 9 or 10 miles, something like that, and you think, "How am I
mhm.
gonna run 3 more miles?" And then, "How am I gonna run 6 more miles?" When I've only ever run 20, and that was already the hardest thing that I've ever done in my entire life. But you are on fresh legs. You do, recover and take some time before your marathon, which is so important. So when it comes to training leading up to the marathon, I was doing about 3 strength training sessions and probably 4 or 5 runs. Would you say you were doing the same?
So I would do long run. I would do recovery run the next day, which was usually like 3 or 4 miles. And then I would do one, I would say, tempo run or more interval run. And then if I could convince myself, I was doing another shorter run, 3, 4, 5 miles. So I think 4 was my
I think 4
max.
is right. 4 running, 3 strength, but I am so, so, so glad that I continued to strength train.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think I maintained 3 training sessions throughout, and a lot of times it would be resistance training followed by 3 or 4 miles, which was not fun, but better than having a training session on every single day of the week. I'm really glad I did the resistance training. I agree. I think that in retrospect, you could isolate just 2 days and do full body. And I could be wrong here. I think that I did like 1 upper, 1 lower, and then 1 full body just to give my legs a break on 1 day of the week. When we say strength training, I think that people maybe think, "Oh, you're doing heavy sets of like 5, 6 reps." And that was not the case at all. We were definitely training like endurance athletes, which means 12 reps, 15 reps, single leg movements, focusing on functional movements and also strengthening stability, coordination. I think we both had that same approach, right?
I definitely was not
Mhm.
lifting my heaviest, that's for sure, because my recovery of my legs was so, so, so important. I probably stuck to a lot of the same type of movements that I usually do, but I was doing a lot of unilateral work. I definitely wasn't going as heavy. I was really, really just trying to keep it as much of a routine as I could. And however I needed to adjust those workouts to get it done is what I did. And having to fit a workout and a run all in the same day does become a little bit of a lot, but You had to do what you had to do, otherwise you were gonna be working out every single day, and that's not something that we wanted to do. Is there anything different that you would do with your training the second time around, like a mistake you made or something you do different?
No, I don't think I would do anything differently. I think maybe take it a little less seriously, I guess, but no, I really believe that the training element, when supported properly with your nutrition, it's all there for a reason. And I did a lot of things that helped support my recovery. I did a lot of things that helped support my performance. Like I really went all in on the process and did everything that I thought was right. And I didn't skip any of the things that I thought I should be doing.
I think the only thing I would change is I maybe would follow a full body split next time instead of still trying to keep with some leg days and some upper body days. I really tried to keep that for as long as I could. And I think next time I would do full body, but otherwise I would still strength train. I would follow a running program without a doubt. They already have it laid out in front of you. And it works. When you follow your training, it works. Trust your training. That's what everyone says when you're going to run a marathon. And it's so true.
Yeah, I think actually one thing that I would do differently is in alignment with that, like trust the training, but also one of the aspects of training is that 80% of your running should be at like a low intensity and only 8 or only 20% is at a higher intensity. And I think learning to run slower is something that you don't even understand until you start to do these distances and you start to pay attention to pace. And that was all new and fresh for all of us, but learning to run slower is something that I think I could have incorporated more earlier on, especially in my training.
You read my mind because that's exactly where I was going. I was going to emphasize easy runs. Now, if you're doing a guided program, they emphasize this. They explain to you how important an easy run is. And you hear easy run, easy run. What does it mean? What is like you think you're running easy until you're running, 18 miles and you're trying to now be at a 9-minute pace and it's no longer easy anymore. I, just like Sam, would take it so much easier. I would use those tempo runs to go fast and do the speed work on those speed days, but if I could go back, I would take it even easier. We thought we were going easy. And I think that you think you're going easy because you're used to running 1 mile, 2 mile, 3 miles where it's these short distances that you can really up the pace on. And so you have no concept of what an easy run really looks like. So I would do that too. You are spot on with that.
And I think I would have a time goal. If I were to ever run another marathon, I do think I would have, I mean, just with having all of the data that we have from our last training programming, I would look at my paces and I would, I think, have more of a strategy of, okay, I want to actually perform better this next time around.
I think that's fair. You can't know that without doing it. So I think that's totally fair that the second time around you have something to gauge it off of. I think I probably would do the same, but I think it's totally normal. Okay, let's talk nutrition because Sam was all over the nutrition when it came to marathon training. It was her jam. She really went intense with making sure she was following that to a T.
Training for a marathon is at minimum a part-time job. It is a huge undertaking, especially when you pile on the nutrition of it all. At least for me, I really took that very seriously. And the reason why, and it was even mentioned in the book I was referring to in the Hanson's method, is with your training, you want to take 2 steps forward. Like every time you train, you're taking steps forward in your training to progress, right? But if your nutrition isn't there to support that level of training, it's like taking 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But if your nutrition is there to support, especially the recovery aspect, then you're able to take 2 steps forward and stay there, 2 steps forward and stay there, and so on, as opposed to under fueling, under recovering, and not being able to actually take all that momentum forward.
Any little tips you wanted to give us, like things that you learned as far as fueling so that people have a couple of things to go off of?
Just general basics. I think creating a priority hierarchy is really helpful. So, at the most important is going to be calorie maintenance, getting enough fuel calories. And then second to that would be protein. And then equal, I would say, in value is your carbohydrates. I tried to stick to my body weight multiplied by 15 to 17 as my baseline, like my absolute lowest for calories. And those were on the days that I was not doing my long run. That day was like its own beast because there'd be intra workout fueling, there would be just like a whole different system. But for the most part, I tried to keep my calories in that range. And just to say, I don't even know how much I weigh. I really just guessed approximately what my weight is to calculate those estimates for calories. Protein, the same as it is for any other reason, goal, whatever. I keep around zero point 0.8 to 1 gram per pound body weight. The only reason I wouldn't suggest going higher than that is you don't want to sacrifice carbs, fats for protein. You want to make sure you're optimizing carbohydrates, especially for endurance. There's only so much carbs, glycogen that you can store within your muscles for fuel. So you have to stay on top of that when you're exercising at the volume that we were. And then the intra workout aspect of nutrition is its own thing. And we were all figuring it out. And unfortunately, there's no one size fits all for, your pre, your during, and then your post nutrition, but all three are so important because not only is performing well important, performing for a long duration important, but then recovering from that effort, it again pulls in that two steps forward, stay there instead of two steps forward, one step back. That's where that nutrition element plays a huge role.
So you were tracking, to break that down a little bit. You were tracking your macros and you really tried to get me to pay attention a little bit more and track. And I think I did for a little bit just to, see what I was taking in. I didn't stick with
Mhm.
it. I really focused on making sure I was eating enough overall. And then pre long run days. So the night before is when I would have a very, very, very carb heavy meal. And then as the runs got even longer, that maybe started a day or two before really carbing up
Mhm.
for the long run. And then my intra fueling was a mess. I have what I found out to be a very sensitive stomach while running. I am not someone who really deals with a sensitive tummy on my day to day. I really, it's rare that I get a stomach ache from eating anything. I think it came down to dehydration and then sometimes just whatever it was that I was fueling with during the run. I was a mess. So I took my intra fueling very, very seriously. Like I was religious about it. I would tap out by mile 14 on a long run if I was not so, so, so strict on my fueling. I fueled every 3 miles, which is about 30 minutes. Sam could push that sometimes and go a little bit longer. I physically couldn't, or my body would stop on me, like actually stop and feel like I was going to die.
Everyone's heard of this supposed like hitting a wall, right? And it's a physical barrier that essentially your body has extinguished its stores of stored carbohydrates. And the same thing can happen with hydration too. If you're not consistent with putting things into your body and you're just allowing all of this output to happen, you can become dehydrated, which makes you feel nauseous, which I know that you experienced a really bad run where you were so dehydrated and it messed you up for the rest of the day. So dehydration is something too that you want to pay attention to because it has a huge and significant effect on your performance. And then fueling during your running too. I think the best of the best are fueling every like 15, 20 minutes. If you're someone who's just starting out with these longer runs, at minimum, I would recommend 45 minutes. Every 40, 45 minutes, you have something. And you can start with something small. You don't have to do an entire goo packet. You don't have to do an entire packet of gummies. You can split it up into smaller sections so that you can learn and kind of train your body into it because it can be a little bit uncomfortable for some people when they're first starting out. And especially if you're trying something new. And I think all of us had trying something new bad experience. Mine was I tried dehydrated fruit and it was or not dehydrated fruit, it was candied fruit, like just, dried fruit, I guess, and that messed up my stomach. It was too much fiber, and you just want something easy to digest, and that's gonna be a really simple carbohydrate. Maybe there's added electrolytes in there. You don't want fat, you don't want fiber. Both of those will slow digestion, and that rock feeling in your stomach is gonna just be the most uncomfortable thing. So, figuring out what works, trying some things, but also paying attention to what generally works well for most people instead of going rogue and being like, "Oh, but what about this thing?" I think that can be a little bit of a helpful piece of advice.
I did not go rogue. Once I found what was gonna work for me, I was so scared to change it up because the feeling of running while you have a stomach ache has gotta be one of the worst feelings. And like Sam said, it gets easier to fuel the more that you practice with it. It is a very weird concept at first to even imagine taking something in while running. Like, I couldn't even think about that before. That didn't make any sense to me, but it does get easier. And it is so important. At least it was for me. It was the most important part of my run was making sure that I was fueling. And even if I felt good, because 30 minutes into your run, 3 miles into your run, you're usually feeling okay. You don't think that you need anything. But an hour into my run, an hour and a half into my run, I definitely did. So thinking, "Oh, I'm fine. I don't need it right now," was something that I had to learn that it didn't really matter how I was feeling right now. You wanted to catch it before you were in the part where you're like, "Oh no, I'm not doing so good now."
You have to be so proactive and with it because if you don't listen to what you know and you go based on how you feel, it's the same with dehydration. Once you feel thirst and you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated, right? It's a sign of dehydration. It's not a sign of I'm becoming dehydrated. So the more that you can prevent getting close to that because you're sweating, you're losing liquids at such a rate that if you only replenish when you need it, then your performance is already down. Your endurance is already down. Like you're really putting yourself in a not so great place to enjoy yourself on this long run. And the same goes for nutrition because when you eat something, it takes time for that to digest and to actually circulate and be utilized. So, you have to give yourself time and be proactive when you're incorporating those things into your long runs.
What was your fueling plan the night before? What did the day before a long run look like?
Most days prior to my long run, my minimum for carbohydrates was 250 to like 300. The day before, I tried to get 300 to 350 grams of carbohydrates. And it didn't I could have been better about an exact what's my food because that is something that you wanna practice leading up to race day is keeping things as similar as possible to how you trained. I don't even remember what I ate the day before. I'm sure I have that documented somewhere, but typically for me, it would just be like I really was into sweet potatoes at the time. So I would do sweet potatoes the day before. I don't think I ended up having sweet potatoes before the marathon. No, I don't think that I did. I think I did a lot of cereal the day before the marathon. And not wise to switch up the fueling source. Shoulda just kept it the same, but as far as numbers go, I did try to pay attention to that at bare minimum, and yeah, what about you?
I did eat the same thing before every single long run, and that was pasta. I would make pasta, and I did that ritualistic every single Friday before my long run on Saturday, and then I did eat that the day before the marathon. Now we can talk about actual marathon day when we get there, but I did not have a happy tummy that morning. But usually my pasta did me well. I actually wish that I wasn't so ritualistic with it. And I wish that I would have tried more things the night before a long run. I see people eat pizza before their long runs. And I wish I just would have experimented a little bit more. But the point being, it was a carb heavy day. That was the whole point. Eat your favorite carbs, go crazy, find what's going to work for you that next day. And then post run, post long run, what did it look like for you?
I was always ravenous. I was so hungry. I my goal really was to find the biggest burrito I could get my hands on. That was really my routine and goal. So, if I was in Arizona, I might be driving 30, 45 minutes to find a new place to try. So that was like the fun of it for me was that was my marathon food and my reward for getting out there and just doing something crazy. But yeah, burritos were a big focus for me. And then I just had not a free for all day. I still tried to stay within like a reasonable amount of calories and all of that. But I was way less paying attention to all of that on the day of running because I had a very big appetite. I didn't worry about under fueling the day of the long run and then the day to follow. So those were kind of the days I was the loosest on tracking because again, I didn't have a problem with under fueling, whereas I feel like that was a little bit more of your issue because you would feel a little bit sickly after some of these long runs.
I did not get done with my runs and go, I can't wait to eat X, Y, or Z today. The last thing I wanted to think about was food for hours and hours and hours. And you would like ram a protein shake into my hand. I knew that I needed to, so I would try to do little things here and there to make sure I was getting fuel in. It probably wouldn't hit me until like 7 p.m. when I was like, okay, now it's time for the meal that I'm looking forward to. I ate a lot of burritos too, the taco stand, shout out. I did not care about my food the rest of that day. Like, I truly, just being honest, there was no game plan in my post long run fuel. I was just whatever sounded good that day, it was like a reward. So I ate a lot of whatever the hell sounded good that day. And then come Monday, get back into like a little bit more of a routine, just trying to eat carbs that I know fuel my runs and feel good.
Yeah, I will throw in, I really liked the goo chocolate flavor for intra workout fueling. We found that one, or you found that one and said it tasted really good. It tasted like chocolate frosting, and I couldn't agree more. I would slam that thing back in seconds and not even for to try to taste it. Like it wasn't even like, oh, what a treat I get to have. It was just get it in my mouth. You don't chew it. You just literally suck it back and keep on moving. And I did really like those a lot. And then I also liked the honey stinger chews. They're like little gummies. But when you're running and chewing, it just is like not the most enjoyable experience. And this is coming from somebody who loves the food experience. So the goos were the way to go for me. I will, if I ever do a longer run, that would be my
I
go
was
to.
100% a gel person. I tried the gummies, they didn't work for me. Chewing, not gonna work for me. Listen, your first one that you have at mile 3 might be your best because it's still kinda cold and then things warm up and they're just not good. You're not eating them to, be excited about something that you're eating them. You're eating it straight for fuel. Now, you do not have to take a gel. You don't have to take a gel. It doesn't have to be anything like that. It can be whatever is going to fuel. Like Sam tried dried fruit. Now, it didn't work for her. I'm just saying that it doesn't have to be gels. And I think a lot of times people start running and then they see all these people having the gels and they think they have to go buy the gels. It can be whatever you want it to be. They're just there for a reason because they're so easy.
People really like Sour Patch Kids, I've seen.
Candy is a big one in general. It's kind of the same thing, just those quick carbs. Again, chewing doesn't work for me. Is there anything that you would do different nutrition the second time around?
No, I think I crushed it. I the only thing that I would add is what I already talked about, which was that I wasn't super consistent with the day before my long runs, and then I switched it up for the marathon itself, and that did have a really big negative impact because I had an upset stomach the morning of, and who knows how much of that is nerves, but for the first I would say 10 miles of the marathon, like the race, my stomach was a rock. It was so uncomfortable, and I didn't have to go to the bathroom or anything, thank God, and it did ease away, but I tried so hard to get so many carbs the entire week leading up to this marathon. I think my strategy, if I remember correctly, was Monday, 300 grams of carbs, Tuesday, 350, and like just progressively adding more and more carbs. And that is a number where I finished I had yet never experienced in my entire life. And I think had I approached my training maybe not as aggressively, but more similarly, my body would have been able to tolerate that higher intake of carbohydrates and know what to do with it, because I think I just went really hard with hoping and praying that it would work and not having any evidence to support that. And I think had I just tried maybe even just towards the end of training to emulate that, it would have been a little bit more successful. What about
I
you?
don't think there's anything I would change nutrition wise other than I think I would allow myself to be a little bit more experimental with the food I ate before a long run. I ate pasta for what, like 20 weeks, and man, was I sick of pasta after that. I really would have liked to broaden it a little bit to see if I could tolerate other foods just to make it a little bit more fun. I think that's what I was missing in a lot of the training was just a little bit more fun. And I think that was just due to the fact that it was you had no idea what to expect. Now, having an idea what to expect, I think you could have a little bit more fun. Not you, just in general. You could have a little bit more fun a second go around because you know what's, waiting for you.
You know who had the most fun with the marathons or like even just like the training was that girl who would eat ice cream at like, she just planned it into her run, so she'd run 3 miles and she'd get a scoop of ice cream, she'd run 3 miles and she'd get another scoop of ice cream. That's the vibe I think I would want to, like, do for another race where it's yeah, like you said, more fun. You're incorporating and who cares if it takes you just, like, a little bit longer to complete your run for the day, you're still running all the mileage, like, sure, there's a break in there for ice cream, but, like, that's so much fun.
Like, she was at the marathon and I think it's the same person. She ate a whole bunch of things and had a lot more fun, and her party pace was my, like, trying pace, so I need to get on her level. I will say come marathon day, a couple of things people don't talk about, or at least I didn't hear, was I didn't sleep the night before. I'm talking like maybe slept 3 hours. Now, this was something we had to stay in a hotel for, so that could obviously change it. I wasn't at home just driving to the race. We were in a hotel. I probably slept for 3 hours due to straight up nerves, like just being so nervous and anxious and excited. So I couldn't fall asleep. And then you're waking up at like 3 a.m. So not much sleep happening. Also, bring toilet paper. Put it in your belt bag, put it in your vest. Bring some toilet paper. My friend for a half marathon after ordered little kits where it's just like a little bit of toilet paper. It's also a toilet seat cover. It's a little tiny, tiny kit that you can put in your vest because you will get there and everyone will need to use the bathroom and you will be in a predicament. Now, luckily, people literally brought toilet paper rolls that we were just handing to each other because TMI, I had to go that morning. I wasn't going to survive if I did not use those porta potties. It could have been nerves, it could have been whatever we ate the day before. Prepare for that.
I wish I was able to go that morning. It wasn't in the cards for me. I don't know why. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Usually, before a long run, I do like to go to the bathroom, and the lines before the race too obviously arrive early, but arrive earlier than you think because everybody has the same idea as you, which is I'm gonna use the bathroom before I run.
Listen, there was no choice in the matter. If I didn't use that bathroom, we were going to have a situation on our hands. There was no choice. I had to, and the lines were long. I was struggling.
During the marathon itself, was there a specific mileage where you feel like you struggled the
Yeah,
most?
I really struggled at the end. I struggled at like mile 23.
Mine was the first 6 miles. I literally thought to myself, "How?" 'Cause I was in so much pain. I was just like, "I don't know how I'm gonna do this." And we started off super slow, couldn't have been any slower. And, like, honestly, the slowest we had ever run because the jostling, like, was really affecting my stomach, so I just went as slow as possible, and then I actually had the opposite. I hit a stride, I would say at mile 23, maybe a little bit earlier than that, where my mile pace went from let's say we started at, like, a 12-minute pace. My mile pace by the end, mile 23 was a 9:45. Mile 24, 9:40. Like, I went all the way down, I think, to, like, a 9:15 by the end. Like, I just hit it. And that's actually so frustrating to me because it just made me feel like I had so much more to give, and there wasn't enough time. Like, there wasn't enough distance for me to, like, actually get it get a get everything out. Like, I finished and I felt like I still had more to give, which is the most painful thing, I think, of the entire experience because I went into it wanting to be, I guess, where you were, which was like, I've given everything and I'm, mentally and physically fighting for the last bit.
And maybe that's why you have to do it a second time eventually one day, who knows? But let's talk about the mental side before we end this because I don't think it's talked about enough. We can talk about the mental side of training, but then also the mental side post marathon, which was, something that we didn't expect. So, during training, do you feel like you mentally struggled with anything? Whether that be body image, I mean anything.
I struggled the most with just days I didn't wanna run, and I was going to anyway, and the battle of, "I'm gonna do it, I'm not gonna do it, I'm gonna do it, I'm not gonna do it," right? Like, that conversation happening in your head, and I knew I was gonna do it, but getting there was really tough, and, maybe by the end you felt okay about it, but sometimes you really are just fighting through every step of however many miles that you're doing. Like, every step feels like a chore. But to me, the biggest mental hurdle was after all of it because I was really able to bury my head and just accomplish this thing, which is very much my strategy with a lot of things that are hard is I'll kind of just be like in my zone and focused on that thing. And then once that thing is gone, that's where I tend to struggle. Do you feel like you struggled more during or after the marathon?
I probably struggled more during. I didn't have the same come off of the marathon that you had. During, I was really not feeling in tune with my body. Like I was looking in the mirror and just feeling like I looked different. I feel like I felt different. Everything just was feeling a little bit off. I don't know for certain because I didn't track it as closely as maybe I could have, but I know I gained weight. And that really didn't have anything to do with I didn't care that I was gaining weight. I just felt like my mind and my body were like in two different places. Like I just felt off when I usually have I feel like I'm pretty in tune with my body. I feel like we're simpatico, my mind and my body. I did not feel like that towards the end. Everything just felt puffy and tired and yeah, to a certain extent, I was probably puffy and tired. I was doing something I had never done to an extreme level. Now, maybe a marathon isn't extreme to everybody who's like used to running long distance. Everything just felt a little bit out of whack towards the end. I would say probably the last month or so was probably the hardest. Did you feel anything with your body? Like, did you feel disconnected a little bit?
I could feel that I was destroying my body, which I very visually could see in my feet. My feet were so gross. I know yours were too. My feet were so nasty, and my body just felt tired. I didn't see many visual changes in my body, but I didn't feel good in my body either, just because of that cumulative fatigue really teetering the edge there with overtraining. Physically, I didn't feel like my body was changing too much. Body image, same thing. A piece of that is I was controlling everything so meticulously that I knew that based on my input and based on my output, like I knew that I wasn't gaining weight. I didn't weigh myself, but I knew because I was monitoring it so meticulously.
All this to say, not everyone's going to feel like that. Some people are going to find that running is their thing, it's their jam, it's the thing that they're good at, and they don't feel like this at all. We have a friend who flew through marathon training and has just caught the bug and hopped on the running train, and she can run miles and miles and miles. Shout out Layla. She just ran an ultra marathon. Not everyone's going to feel like this.
but I do think a majority of people would.
Definitely, people will have aspects of this that they feel, but you might find that you don't feel anything like this, and that's normal too. Whatever your body goes through during marathon training is going to look different to each person. There are things you don't expect to happen. Like I broke out pretty badly. Like I
Mhm.
was dealing with zits on my back and my shoulders, and I hadn't dealt with that since I was a teenager. My face broke out.
Can we talk about the chafing?
Oh my god. I forgot.
So, both of us learned early on that shorts, absolutely not. Full leggings all the time, especially for those long runs. No matter how long your shorts are, I guess it's just a body type, but, like, my legs would just rub, 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 and especially if I needed a long do a long run, like, I had to be wearing leggings, but then what crept out of nowhere was, like, butt cheek chafe, and you don't recognize it's happening until it's already there, right? Because you're running, you're sweating, you got sweat running down your butt, and again, you don't recognize it, at least I didn't, until I was, like, in the shower after
And
my
it's
long
so
runs.
painful. It's so painful. I completely blocked that out because it was horrible. Obviously, there are things that you can buy for this, like chafing, like roll-on sticks, and a lot of time during races, you'll see people handing these out, like passing them out to each other so that you can put it in between your legs or wherever you're dealing with chafing. Deodorant worked. Anything that you can do to help the glide because it is miserable. So there are things that you don't expect. And I do feel like I don't want to end this on a negative topic about marathon training. This is just us being as real as we can about all of the cause and effect with marathon training and our experience with it. Would I go back and not run the marathon? No, absolutely not. I am so glad that we did that. And I don't wanna put it in your head not to do it. I'm not saying this at all because 'cause you're gonna have your own experiences of highs and lows, and they might not be anything that we experienced at all. So I don't want to scare you from doing one. I think it's a fun thing for people to do. If it's something that they're interested in at all. If you're not interested in it, don't feel peer pressure to do a marathon, but if it's in the back of your mind, I don't know, go for it.
If you find pain and challenge and just pushing your limits to be a good time, it's the best time. And I love that shit. I love the challenge. I love pushing my limits, showing myself what I'm capable of. It is one of those things that empowers me to go to the gym on a Tuesday when I don't want to, or it gets me moving and it keeps me motivated. I love doing things that are hard. So to me, it was a good time. Now, do I need to do it again? And would I have a better time? I don't know. But I'm glad. I'm also really glad that I did it. I would recommend it to anyone who thinks maybe they want to do it. But I do think that understanding it's gonna be hard and that's a part of the fun is something that you need to
Yeah, this is
conceptualize.
definitely not us saying don't do it. I'm actually saying do it. The least hard part about marathon training is the marathon itself. Without a doubt, race day is the most fun day.
Yeah.
Actually, pre race day, the day where you're picking up your bibs, it's a blast. It's such a fun day. The excitement is there, the nerves are there. Everyone's so excited for their big day. Maybe you are doing it with friends. Race day, fun day. Your friends and family are there maybe cheering you on. You're going to eat a great meal after and you're going to go to sleep that night so excited about the thing you accomplished. Race day is the least hard part of the training because the real marathon is the training leading up to it. And so if you can just get yourself to get through that part and the hard days, the hard runs, the days you don't want to do it, if you can get through that, you'll get through race day.
And we didn't touch on it fully, but I did struggle at the end of training because a piece of it was I wanted to maintain these adaptations that I had trained for. And yet, I didn't wanna do any of the things to maintain them. I also didn't have the same direction or training volume that I'd had before, and all of that was affecting me mentally Also, the buildup of I'm so focused on this thing, now it's over. Now what do I do? Not just with my physical time, but with my mental time. I'm not thinking about this thing of how I can do it better and feeling so disconnected, like you said, with your body, your mind and your body weren't just together. I felt that way with myself as well, and I couldn't be any more clear of what that means because I genuinely don't know. I just felt very disconnected from my body, and I'd have built so much strength in that before this marathon that it really took me by surprise that it wasn't still there waiting for me. And a big focus of it too is like training for a marathon is not a sustainable lifestyle for a lot of people. And it certainly was not for me. And so disconnecting from my truly sustainable lifestyle, I think that was maybe a big factor of why I felt so weird for months. And actually, one thing that I didn't really recognize or pay attention to was after running a marathon, your body is so stressed. Like you've just done something that your body is probably going to need weeks to recover from. And I didn't fully respect that in the sense of I physically felt okay after a couple days. I was hobbling around for a couple, like immediately after. But then my recovery felt fine. But what you can't see, what you can't feel still exists. And all of the impact of running a marathon, it was still there. I couldn't see it, I couldn't feel it, and I just kept going, not as intensely, I wasn't running very far, but I didn't give myself enough time to recover, and I do retroactively or in retrospect see that that was probably the case.
By day 3, you're probably feeling okay, but you don't realize all the things that your body went through and what's happening on the inside. So, although you're not hobbling around anymore, probably best
Mhm.
that you still take some time for recovery, for, your best recovery that you could have. We could have taken that so much more seriously. And I did not struggle as much with the come down. I think because I struggled towards the end of marathon training. So by the time it was done, I was like, no, I'm done. I'm ready to move on to my next phase, which is strength and a little bit of running. Like I was ready to come out of it. So I did not struggle mentally with that, but I did struggle a little bit body image wise because I was breaking out for a while. Like I was breaking out for a long time. I didn't expect that. I think it took months before that calmed down. Now, I can't necessarily say that it was the marathon that did that. I think that yes, I was so ready to be done sweating. You have no idea how ready I was to be done sweating and feeling like salt all the time after these long runs. So that probably wasn't great for my skin. Also, I think maybe some things were going crazy inside my body post marathon that I had no idea was happening because I had just put my body through, not to be dramatic, trauma. It was a lot on my body. Now, maybe the more marathons you do, maybe it's less and less and less, but I won't know because another marathon is not on my list right now. Right now, my mind could change maybe. And none of this is to scare you away from a marathon or a half marathon. I actually think half marathon is where the sweet spot is. This is not to scare you away from any sort of race. This is truly just the reality of what we went through and the things that we didn't expect. But overall, I'm really, really glad that I did it.
Me too, and also it's been a year since we went through this, and I think with anything that you do, there's always gonna be the negative stuff that jumps out to you a little bit harder. It's just easier to remember, it's more present, it's more clear. There were so many good things, so many fun things, and the satisfaction that you get from doing something that you never thought you'd be able to do, and also being able to do it sometimes with ease is so satisfying. Like, once I mean, that whole concept of a runner's high. I'd never experienced that in my entire life, but feeling weightless and feeling just locked in, it is one of the best feelings.
So if you take anything from this episode, let it be. Do a marathon if that's on your mind. Like if you're interested in that, there's no better time than now. But if you're not interested in a marathon, maybe you just start running just for fun here and there. I really think 3 to 5 miles is a really good spot to be in. So maybe you don't sign up for a marathon, but maybe you just start incorporating runs here and there. I think you might like it.
And start with intervals 2 minutes, 1 minute, 1 minute off, 1 minute on, 2 minutes off. Play with intervals. That's also a really fun and entertaining way to go about training as well. That's it for today. Take what you need from this episode, leave the rest, and trust you're doing better than you think. Thank you for being here. If you liked this episode, please rate and review. We'll talk to you soon. Until then, keep feeling good.